My guest today is the current SGA president. He is a senior communications major, a founding brother of the fraternity Alpha Kappa Psi, and he plays the bagpipes in the EUP Pipes and Drums. Please welcome William Lee Galt IV. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Ciera.
Yeah, no problem. So you've been in office for over a semester now. What are some of the things that you've accomplished and implemented so far?
Well, as was my goal when I started, one of the biggest things that we've started to do is completely revamping SGA's governing documents. That's our fiscal procedures that govern all of the budgetary and financial matters that we have, as well as the Constitution, which is just generally how the organization is run. I can say over the past 10 years, these two documents, as well as the bylaws which are contained in the Constitution, have been pretty dilapidated through change of power and different students not knowing exactly how to write a legal document. They've become pretty poor, and one of the biggest things that we can do is to get these back on track and approved by the university to help govern the organization going into the future.
That sounds really good. I know one of SGA's biggest initiatives this year was to improve its relationship with clubs and organizations on campus. How have you and your e-board done that so far, and how do you plan to continue that?
All right. Well, as far as what we've done so far, I can say I'm confident in saying that our relationship with the clubs and organizations has improved. And that's from everything from just individual interactions. So when a club pops into the office and asks if we can help them with the printer, you stop what you're doing and you help them with the printer. You know, from things as small as that to helping them with the budget. Tyler set aside time to talk one-on-one with clubs about how they should apply for a budget and things like that, because at the end of the day, we're between 18 and 24. We've never done this before. So it's a learning experience for everybody. And I think it's those one-on-one interactions that are what build meaningful relationships between SGA and the clubs and organizations.
That sounds really good. I know one of our, this semester, a new service was introduced to the Scots portal, Borough Sync. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it's changed the way clubs and organizations function?
I would love to talk about Borough Sync. I could talk about Borough Sync forever. So when we implemented Borough Sync, the hope was that we could take almost every interaction that the students have with SGA online. Because I can say as a student, in my experience, I hate leaving my room as much as anyone else does. So now you can apply to be a van driver, request vans, do general funds requests, and even the budget will all be hosted online. So not only do I think that increases the benefit of that SGA has for each individual, because now they can do it from home. They don't have to come in. You don't have to find somebody in their office hours. You can just do it right online, and we can handle it. But also, it just makes everything run smoother on our end as well, and we're also paperless, which is nice. Everybody's going green, and SGA can take steps to do that as well.
I definitely like the idea of you guys going green. That's something close to my heart. What is one thing that you would like the student body to know about your job as president and yourself?
Well, truthfully, I'm not very interested in what they know about me, because at the end of the day, I'm only here for a year, and heck, in a couple years, I'll just be a picture outside the SGA office, and nobody will even know who I am. But what I would like them to understand is things about the job of a president, because there'll always be somebody sitting in my chair doing the things that I do. And honestly, it would just be that it could be them. I don't want anybody to think that the SGA presidency is something unattainable. It's definitely something I would expect anybody to want out of college and to try to do, and to get out there and try to catch it, because it's not that hard to do, truthfully, if you set your mind to it. I think one of the biggest problems that people have is that they're not involved on campus at all, and they don't understand how to get involved or how you would try to go toward goals like that. So I'm not really interested in people knowing much about me or my term as president. I would rather them have their term as president and find out what it's like for themselves.
Sounds really cool. What kind of resources does SGA provide for students?
Okay. Well, on top of what we've mentioned, like Borough Sync and things like that, making it easier for the clubs to interact with SGA, for the general population, we offer everything from the EMTA bus service. SGA hosts a lawyer that any student is able to use for free. Generally, students come in for things like landlord disputes. Students can't always afford a lawyer on their own, so SGA keeps one on retainer that any student can use for free. And even things as small as our PR director, Nicole Nisley, her committee will put up flyers for you. You can get one flyer into her, she'll approve it, print out 50 or so copies and just put them up all over campus so one person from the club doesn't have to run around and do it. As well as the mascot, Mikado. We've been trying to get him out a lot this past year, and I think we've been pretty successful in that. But I think that's one of the bigger things that we offer to the university as a whole.
Cool. We have about 100 majors here on campus and students that come here from all over the world. So how do you ensure that every student is being represented by SGA?
That's a very good point, and that was one of the issues of contention I had coming into my presidency, is that they're just not represented very well. And I can say, honestly, over the course of this year, the Congress still doesn't represent the student body very well, but what we have done is write into the new Constitution that will be hopefully taking effect, pending a vote, or several, next year. We're hoping to implement a fully functioning House of Representatives with representatives that are appointed by their department. So every department will have a representative. Major campus life bodies will have a representative. And if we can make that pass, if we can get that to pass, we'll have representation from all over the place. As well as the Senate, which would be congressmen at large like we have now. So if you represent a department, you'll have maybe a special meeting with your department chair, things like that, to bring the interests of the department to the SGA. But as a congressman at large, you would just be somebody who's interested in student governance and has a special interest in that. So you wouldn't necessarily represent one body, you would represent the campus as a whole, and you could still have your voice heard that way.
What upcoming events can students look for from SGA?
All right, biggest upcoming events will definitely be the electoral events for the election for the next SGA president, which will determine the next e-board and the future of SGA going into the next year. I think all other events kind of pale in comparison to those ones because at the end of the day, the student body president is elected by the student body, and without student input, anybody could win. So I think it's important for people to get out to those events, the debate, the game show, get to know the candidates, get to know where they stand on important policy issues. So when you vote, you make an educated vote, not just who's your friend.
And will students be able to vote on Borough Sync?
Well, we're still working out a way, but I'm sure they will be able to. We really want to push the election onto that.
Okay. What do you think is the most important thing for the next SGA president to accomplish?
Well, I think every president takes office, they have their own vision for the organization. They know where they want it to go, they see where they want to take it. But I think the most important thing for SGA's future is for the next president not to throw out everything my administration did just because we did it. I think it's so important for them to have their own vision and take it their own direction because things like that are just important. But one of the things SGAs across the country have trouble with are pillars in the organization that stay from semester to semester, year to year. With change of power, it's so easy for things to get shuffled under the rug and things to just get pushed aside because it wasn't their idea or their initiative. I think the next administration has to take some things and pick them up where we left them and take them to completion, because 1 year just isn't enough time for a lot of larger projects, like Borough Sync, for example.
Right, that makes sense. So as we get closer to the end of your term, what would you like your legacy to be here at Edinboro?
Truthfully, I think my legacy will just be, like I said before, the picture outside of the SGA office and 2 really strong governing documents that will help lead the organization into the future. I'm not interested in my name on a new sign somewhere. That's not really why I'm here. I think if I can walk away from my term with new governing documents that will help us out in the future, as well as leaving a good image of SGA in the minds of the faculty and administration, that's more than enough for me.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Ciera.
Yeah, no problem. For more information about SGA, please visit edinborghsga.com. Thank you for watching.